I look like? Live video, edit, on, edit, title and description, edit details. Okay. Save. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Is this set? Hello. Hello to everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to everyone. Been a while since we've done one of these. Oh God, since we've done one of these little live videos. I have to say, I've been working a lot on video editing the past week, and I have a lot of things planned that actually I think could come to fruition now that I'm figuring out how to be a little bit more tech savvy. Um, yeah. Anyways, I know a lot of you are here. We're here to talk about the split of Lajoie and Lagha, which has to be probably the biggest shock and some of the biggest, not the biggest shock, actually. I think we all a lot of us think kind of knew this was coming. It was been rumored for weeks. So this is not a shock to um, many, I think, that were following the situation. But I think if you were not actively participating and watching and skating news over the summer, which a lot of people don't, it's time to take a break, focus on other sports and kind of decompress a little bit. So this was a shock for some. Hi, LR. Thank you. My interview was great. I was super pleased with Emily and Ian and super thankful that they were able to come on. So if you haven't had the chance to do that, check out our interview with them. It went live today at 4. And then on Wednesday, our interview with Jacob Sanchez will go live as well. And then Clayton has an interview next week with Gabby Dillman. So that is supposed to go live at some time this point next week. He's interviewing her this weekend. So hopefully that all pans out and we can get that interview up for you as well. But anyways, we can kind of dive into the big news, um, which there's been a lot. There's been a lot of rumors circulating over the past couple of weeks of some, dance couples splitting. Obviously Lim and Kwan split from Korea. Canada had a bunch of people that were dropping like flies throughout the beginning of the summer, and it seems like it's still continuing at this rate. So they're going to have to really do a major rehaul for their dance program. And it really, I think, looking at what happened yesterday, which was Marjorie, Lajoie, and Zachary Lagha announcing that they are going to be no longer partners. So only Marjorie has posted that they are no longer partners. She posted on Instagram last night. She said, after 15 years, it's the end. Thank you to everyone who has supported us and believed in us throughout all these years. Thank you, Zach, for the journey we shared together. It's important to truly love what you do. When you're passionate, genuine, and aligned with your values, anything is possible. Yes, it's the end of a major chapter, but also the beginning of a future I'm very excited about. So, a lot to unpack. Then today, Roman Hagenauer, who is one of their former coaches, he was not really a part of their coaching staff during the past season and a half, which she mentioned in the interview. He gave an interview today with Maya B. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, and I don't want to butcher it. But Maya, I will link it in the description box below, and I'll paste it for you guys in the chat right now so that you can see it. He gave an interview kind of detailing what his insider thoughts were on the split. And there's a lot to unpack from that. But we can first kind of talk about I come from it first time to talk about my thoughts on why the two of them split and kind of where they are going. I do think Roman was doing a bunch of PR for sure, LR. I think there are some tidbits that you can pick up here and there from the interview that does kind of correlate, I think, with what a lot of viewers saw throughout the past season between the connection of the two of them. I'll get to that though at a in later in this episode. But so looking at the two partners and they split, you have Marjorie and then you have Zachary. So right now, both of them do have rumored partners for their new adventures. And if you're looking at what Marjorie said in her post, she said it's the end of a chapter, but it's the beginning of a future that she's excited about. I think that was alluding to the fact that she will be partnering up with someone probably soon. Um, and Zachary has also been rumored to be partnering with a former Korean skater. So that's something that you should be looking for potentially in the future. Marjorie rumored to be partnered with a US ice dancer. That's what's been circulating around the web. Again, none of this is definitive information, but just sharing what we are hearing. So yeah, Theo and Lucia, Theo was the big rumor for Marjorie for a couple days, but they did confirm today, yes, LG Mystic, that they are not breaking up. So that is not the partner that is the big rumor for Marjorie. And I think that's good that Theo and Lucia are not breaking up. I think the two of them have a good chance to kind of make a shift upward in the trajectory in French ice dance this season. But so um, I would expect the two of them both to be kind of battling it out over the next couple of years. It's kind of like we have when KMT and Dylan Moskovich broke up. It kind of is giving that similar vibe where you have the two of them, and I think they're going to be battling for that top Canadian spot over the couple next former South Korean skater for Zach. Yes. I would assume that they're going to be competing for Canada, SLSKDG. They were at the Olympics this year, so not hard to kind of connect the dots there. They also do train IM, and the ice dancer allegedly for the US that would be for Marjorie also would be um, an former IM skater that's still kind of connected to there. Yes, they would need to take off. Hannah Lim would have to take off a year to switch beds. So at the earliest, we would see both of these two teams kind of pairing up in the next season. So they probably wouldn't be competing at all this season. Um, Technically, if you're going to go, yeah, they wouldn't be able to go to Worlds because Lim and Kwan did go to Worlds. So um, there is a lot to factor in with that. But I would say for Canada, looking at this next season, a lot of sparse, a very sparse field, especially if Piper and Paul don't continue. You have L'Oreal and Lagha, who would be kind of the top Canadian team. If they also continue, you got to think they are also up there in age as well. So it's not, I wouldn't say that's a sure bet that they will continue, but especially given the field now, it would make a lot of sense for them to stick around, get a Canadian title, be that top team, and set themselves up for a couple extra years if they want to. But after that, it's very sparse. I mean, Fabry and Air split, Henson and Lickers split, Piper and Paul probably not coming back. I mean, those are three very top Canadian teams for them. And after that, it's not very high level for those Canadian teams. It would be weird, Rachel, for them to be the top team, but when you have all these teams just split up, it's very crazy to see um, the drop off, from Canada. And remember, they'll have three world spots next year. They'll have three dance teams that will be able to go if they're able to get their world minimums. So a lot of rebuilding for Canada. But now, yes, I do think Hannah will need to work a lot on the overall basics. I think Zach and Marjorie are a much more powerful dynamic team than what Lim and Kwan were. And I think Hannah Lim, if she does pair up with Zach, does will have a lot of work in terms of getting the overall skating quality up to his level. Um, and I think that will be something an area of contention between kind of differentiating between the two rumored teams. I would say Marjorie's partner will have much higher quality skating skills, and I think they would be ahead in terms of the overall skating skill mark at this point. Yes, LJ Mystic, that is something I have thought about. So Marjorie's partner wouldn't have competed in years. So he last competed in the 2022-2023 season, after the Olympic season. Also, the thing about her partner is I don't know if he really ended his career in a way where he felt complete. Um, so, but are there any potential structural or environmental explanations? Yes, LR, I have mentioned that it is a rumor, but I've heard from substantial amount of individuals within Canada that it's likely fair to say that there is some truth to the rumor. Okay. Are there any potential structural environmental explanations for the sheer number of Canadian teams splitting? I think honestly, I think you have to look at it from the quad. So last Olympic cycle, when we went from the Beijing quad to the Milan quad, it was much different because a lot of those skaters were at a different point in careers. Like Madison and Evan, they were kind of near the end of their careers, but the Russians were gone. The Russians were gone, so were the French. So it kind of presented them this new opportunity to kind of be at the top of the ice dance world. And at that point, a lot of these teams that stuck around throughout this past quad had never reached their fullest potential of being like first, second, third. Now we have this new quad coming in, and you have a bunch of teams that have kind of been stagnant over the past 4 years because they weren't able to get to, the first, second, third, first, or fourth, in the world of ice dance because it's kind of been predetermined over the past couple of years. And you have a lot of relationships during that time that can kind of build up and have frustrations. And you kind of want to reevaluate. At the end of a quad, there's time for individuals to reevaluate, kind of see, do we want to continue? Do we think we'll have success? And I think for a lot of these teams in Canada and as well as internationally, I think a lot of them are coming to the realization that they may not be reaching what goals they want with the current partner. And that's why they're taking a step back and kind of figuring out um, if there's someone else out there that could work with them. And I think in the Marjorie and Zachary case, I think for them, it was a huge culmination of things. I think we've all known that um, maybe the relationship between them has been a little bit difficult throughout the previous years. I mean, they split once before, got back together. Granted, that was at a very young age, so a lot of things going on then. And then you look at this quad for them. So the first season of this quad, they were not at Worlds because Canada did not get the three spots at that World Championships in 2022 because Piper and Paul had taken the hit after the Olympics. They had made the mistake at the Olympics. The Italians swept in, beat them. You had the two USA teams ahead of them, the French. Am I forgetting anyone else who was ahead of them? I think they were like seventh at that Worlds. Let me double check. Um, yeah, they were fifth. They were fifth at the 2022 Worlds. But then also the second team was Fonia Baudry and Cizeron. So that didn't add up, or Fonia Baudry and Sorensen before they were, So those didn't add up to the 3 points. So the first year, Marjorie and Zach, they end their season at four continents. The next year was their most successful year, was the Montreal World season. Um, they had the good rhythm dance that year to the Michael Jackson. It really worked for them. They had I think they'd beaten or pushed really close to Piper and Paul in one of the Grand Prix in China. And did they win that rhythm dance? Yeah, they won the rhythm dance against Piper and Paul in China that year. And then they make it to the Grand Prix final, not the best, but they come back at Worlds and they were fifth, you know, and they were pushing to beat Fear and Gibson. They were beating Florian Ponomarenko. They had beaten Fonia Baudry and Sorensen, Lobereva Brousseau, who had a really great season. And, you felt like that was kind of it. They had that free dance that year to the Roses that was really just spectacular and was an elevating program for them. That it kind of became their standout material. It really made people kind of look at them as this could be a world champion team. And then, the next couple of years, maybe not the best, maybe not the best. The next year they come out, they don't do the challenger circuit because they were injured and they show up at the Grand Prix. They're second. They have good programs, not anything amazing, but very similar to like the Roses free dance, where it's nice, beautiful lyrical music. And they go to four continents, they win the silver medal there, or the bronze medal there. And then they go to Worlds, and it felt like Worlds, they kind of got dropped out of nowhere there. That was kind of, I think, the beginning of the frustration for them. It might have been building up before that, but I think Worlds in Boston was the huge catalyst for where they started to be plummeting and taking the downward spiral. Seventh, they were behind Carrera and Ponomarenko. They were behind Olivia and Tim. You know, these were teams that were not really near them in any capacity at all over the past couple of seasons. Marjorie and Marjorie and Zach at the Worlds in Montreal were 8 points ahead of Carrera and Ponomarenko, and Olivia and Tim, they were over 20, 30, maybe 30 points. Um, and I think that was a big shock for them and a big shock for the skating community. And then you go into, yeah, I don't understand why they were dropped at that Worlds. I know that they kind of gave Carrera and Ponomarenko that bonus, but even with the bonus, I think Marjorie and Zach were the better skaters, and just overall better programs. And then the next season, coming into the Olympic season, they had a free dance that was supposed to be. They had a new free dance that they were supposed to debut. I think it was Bach or something. I'm trying to double check. They don't even have it listed on the Wikipedia, but they had a new free dance, and we never got to see it in competition because they scrapped it before they got to competition. And they had this rhythm dance this year that was god awful. And we had said it all year that the rhythm dance was the issue, and they brought back the Nerea free dance. And while the Nerea free dance was lovely and beautiful, I think it kind of had a stale effect on them overall. And, when we get to this interview that Roman Hagenauer gave with Maya, he talks a lot about them being very different. Obviously the two of them are, he said the two of them, I think, are very strong-willed, very opinionated. And the one thing that Roman mentioned that I thought was very interesting was that he didn't feel that they were connected or aligned artistically with their vision. He said, I think they both realized they were not aligned artistically in any way that they connect in the vision. The connection was never really there. On the ice, artistically, Zach has an opinion of how they should be. Marjorie had another one. They grew in different directions a little bit. He also said, where was it? I'm trying to figure this out. I don't remember what he said, where it is exactly, but he said in the interview that they had a lot of difficulty selecting music over the past couple of years. And I think that was very evident. Once they got through the Roses rhythm dance in Montreal, I do feel that the past two rhythm free dances were a little safe. Maybe not exploring their boxes in any way, but the one thing I think also was interesting that we found out that we kind of had a sense is that Roman dropped them as a coach about a year ago. Where did he say? I thought, where is it? I'm trying to figure it out. Where did he say this? He said it in the interview. I do think, in my honest opinion, looking at the two of them, I think both are very, very opinionated. And I think they both probably could have come to a compromise when it came to artistic choices. I do think Zach may be a little bit more stubborn than she is. Just from what I've heard about him in skating circles and just the overall vibe that we've gotten over the past couple of years. Um, I do think though them splitting, yes, it is sad, but I do think it kind of came to a point where the two of them didn't see the pathway for themselves to skyrocket at this point, and I think they decided it was better to cut ties. Um, let's see, what is everyone saying? Couldn't help them anymore to find themselves. Yes, I couldn't help them anymore to find themselves as I had been doing for 10 years. It's not like I rejected them, but Marie France took over. Yeah, it kind of seemed like, and you got to think also about the timeline of this. The year that he rejected them was also the year that Papadakis and Cicerone were getting back into training. Or sorry, Papadakis and sorry, not Papadakis. Laurence and Guillaume were getting back into training for the Olympics. So, was he kind of too busy to help, or did he have more interest in helping a team that he thought had a higher ceiling? So you got to think about it that way. I think he had a little bit of, he wanted his investments maybe in a team that he thought would be more successful. Um, and I think also you have to look at IM and know that I don't think this is on Marjorie and Zach. I think, yes, Marjorie and Zach do have a part in this as well, but I don't think the blame 100% should be going on them. I think that I am definitely could have been investing a lot more into the team over the past couple of seasons and really tried their best to give them anything different, anything better than the rhythm dance, anything better than Nureyev for an Olympic free dance. I think they just kind of maybe got fed up with the team and them not kind of living up to what the potential was and maybe started looking at other teams elsewise. Maybe they started they had Madison Chalk they had to invest in and Evan Bates and they had Laurence and Guillaume. And, you know, that's going to take up a lot of energy from these coaches to put a lot of time into them. And, are they going to be as invested in the ninth place Canadian or ninth place team at the Olympics that's going to be second at Canadian Nationals because Skate Canada wouldn't really push them over Piper and Paul? I don't know. I don't know if the cards were ever in their favor. And I think also you have to think about Skate Canada as a factor in this too. Um, I am and Skate Canada, I think both played a part in this, where I am wasn't invested in them. They were to a point, during that middle season, I think they had really great material. And then Skate Canada never really politicked for them to be close to Piper and Paul. I mean, like, you have to think there was a point in time where the USFS was politicking Chalk and Bates and Hubble and Donahue to be right up there for, gold, silver, bronze. Skate Canada could have been doing the same thing. They had two teams of the same quality. So yeah, I think also one thing that I thought was super interesting is that Roman also said that the two of them had talked about switching to a different coaching um arena or rink. Where did he say that? Yeah, here it is. So they considered finding new partners. There was also a discussion about changing school. I don't know if they were, and when I think about them changing schools, I wonder if he was talking about them switching to Scott and staying within the IM family, because I don't know if they would have openly discussed leaving IM with the IM coaches. I don't know if that would have been openly discussed with the coaches. Um, yeah, it was a discussion they said, and we could not always agree to work the best of everyone. Let's see, what did you say? Yeah, I agree. I think also you have to think, remember, there's those different tier levels of IM in terms of like what you pay. Like there's the specific tiers of like how much you're paying into it. And I mean, I don't know what these skaters are all paying, what the different tiers are, but that could also be a factor. I don't know what's going on with that. That's not my business, but you have to think that also could have been another layer that might have been possible into their downfall, but I don't know. Let's see. Maybe they'll just working with certain teams more. Yeah, I think so too, Rachel. Yeah, I think that's 100% accurate. I think when you have a team, and definitely the way that Roman is explaining it is there definitely is not, they didn't have the most effortless communication and connection to each other on the ice. I think if you have a team that has the issues with um, making it work together, that might be a team you don't want to spend as much time with because you're unsure if it's gonna pan out. The relationship dynamic is 100% a part of coaches working with students well, and um, that 100% could have been um, part of it, Rachel. Let's see, what else is there? Another takeaway. But I think for me, um, I feel like it's a sad situation because they were so close to being in that top three echelon. Um, and it's sad they fell short. I agree with you, LR. And I think that's why Olivia Smart really works well with them because she is 100% guiding the artistic vision of that team. Um, I think that's 100% the the comment. LR said, bottom line, IM works best when the team comes with their own artistic vision and technical skills. They provide the politics. Yes. If you know exactly what you want, if you know exactly what you want and you have a vision and you know what you want to do artistically across the ice, they'll provide you a good technical base in terms of managing, the requirements and developing. I think that's for sure the true. And you also have to think this is kind of their baby. This is their baby team. This is the team that they developed from a very young age. So this is kind of a big blow for them too, because they haven't necessarily developed a team from um they're not, yes, exactly, LR. They're a finishing school. They haven't really developed a team from the beginning to the end. They're able to take these teams that have the good base. It's very Frank Carroll, Brian Orser-ish of 2010, where they take the teams that have very good overall basics and good lines and matching qualities, and they're able to make it into something that works. But this was their first team that they kind of were able to bring from the youth up to a top five team. So this is a little bit of a blow for them, where they weren't able to kind of finish the job on the team that they home grew. Um, Yes. Bottom line for me is while I like Hannah a lot, I'm not sure Marjorie and Zach can currently find partners at their level. So I'm worried they'll both struggle when I'd love to see them. I agree with that. I do wonder if we're able to see when we finally see who the new partners are, how it will be, how they'll pan out. Yes, finishing is subjective. Lyle and Lewis aren't a finished team, but I do think Lyle and Lewis are kind of they're kind of doing what they can do at this point, Rachel. I don't know. I think there are innate caps on all these teams of what they're able to do. And Lyle and Lewis are a team that I think really could struggle in the next couple of seasons. I think honestly, if they get a world medal this year, I think you should just pack it up and move on because I think this next quad of ice dance with these teams moving up, I really think they're going to just overtake Lila and Lewis. Um, I mean, they've gotten Lila and Lewis to world medals. So, ooh, who would I pair them up with? All right, LJ Mystic, I would have Marjorie. I would probably try to find some sort of Russian man for her. Um, yes, yes, JAL. That is the rumor that we've been discussing. Yeah, I think Lyle and Lewis have peaked too, SLS. I would like to have Marjorie kind of in like an Elena Berezhnaya way. Um, I'd like to have her kind of skate with like some sort of Russian man. I think it could really work for her. Um, I don't know. I think I'd like to see her kind of take the connection, the Canadian basics and the Russian dramatics and make it work. I think that could be really interesting for her because I think she has a lot more to give than we've actually seen. Zach, I don't know who to partner him with. Um, I think he's going to be leading the ship with whoever he's with next, and I think obviously she'll be leading the ship with whoever she's with. I think two of them just had personalities of, I want to lead the ship of this partnership, and it just didn't ever work. But does anyone else have anything to say about this as we move on to some US pairs? Because Starr Andrews announced that she has a partner today, which we did know. Um, we did know that I mean, I think we had heard that it was Daniil. I mean, when Starr posted that picture of the cropped like video, the cropped picture, like obviously it was Daniil, just with the difference in height. Someone had posted that she was with Luke Wang. I don't think we ever really expected Luke Wang and a Starr to partner up. I think just too much of a um, messy situation for that to happen. Um, so yes, they are training in Irvine with Jenny and Todd. Let me tell you though, the the stuff that we saw a lift from Starr today. We saw an off ice double twist. We saw a side by side triple stow. Personally, I am proud of Starr for not partnering up with your girlfriend, career first girl. I agree, SLS. Okay, Lauren. So Katie is supposed to be pairing up with she might be pairing up with the US man. She's trying out. From what I've heard, she's trying out with the US skater, US pair skater. I think she kind of expected that was. I wonder though if now she regrets it though, since it wasn't a guaranteed um, partnership. So, but I do think Starr and Daniil have a capability to be a very high quality team. I think they show more promise than what Audrey Shin was showing. Um, and I think overall the innate capability is going to be higher. I think the leg wrap with Audrey with the throws and the side by sides, um, you were wondering if that would translate very well to pairs. And I think Audrey sure has a lot more to work on and it will get better. But I think um, Starr is really going to hit it off this year. Obviously you have to talk about Daniil. Um, I think he's excited to not have to do a side-by-side triple flip or double flip with Katie McBee, but obviously he doesn't have the citizenship, and that's going to be something that's going to be talked about for the next 4 years with these two. I don't know if he's going to be able to get it in time. I don't know what his timeline is. So if someone knows that and wants to fill me in, be sure to comment it below. But I have to say, um, if they need to get this team citizenship, I feel like they might be able to do it. They might be able to do it, but we're gonna have to see. Um, let's see. Yeah, Katie McBeef. I think Katie McBeef has a lot more potential. She is also up there in age as well, but um, I mean, Deanna Stellato's 42 and doing Paris. So also the Deanna Stellato Danny O'Shea rumor is interesting. I did hear about Deanna. I have heard that Deanna did try out Balaj. That would not work out, in my opinion. Deanna and Balaj, I think, would not work out at all together. Um, Two very, very strong personalities. I don't think that Deanna would appreciate Balaj yelling at her. I don't know if Balaj would appreciate Deanna yelling at him. I don't think that would work. Um, let's see. Let's see. Given all the repairing going on, I imagine that Starr and Daniil get a lot of international time. It's yes. Yeah. You got to think all these teams are playing, and it's so funny because all of them are all trying out with each other, and no one's announcing that they're splitting up. All of that, like the musical chairs of U.S. Paris this offseason has been amazing. Yes, there is a rumor that Ashley Kane is coming back. Um, the funny thing is with the Deanna and Danny thing is that when Deanna dumped Nate, the USFS brought Danny and Brandon Fraser to like a USFS camp. Um, and like Deanna was there and they wanted the three like them to try out with each other, to try out with Brandon and Danny because they wanted them to leave their partners at the current time. Brandon was with Haven, who kind of had the problem with the jumps. Same thing with Tara Kane, where like the triple sow cow was what it was. This triple toe wasn't there. Um, I think Ellie, yeah, LJ, I do think Ellie is the type of skater who might be, I'm good, ready to move on. But she also maybe wants to continue. I don't know. Um, I think overall, I'm excited to see how the Starr and Parkman foundation and basics will look. Um, Lauren, that's the rumor. That is the rumor that he wants to come back. So we'll see if that actually becomes the truth. We'll have to see. But that is what we've heard. That's what's been circulating. Again, it is a rumor, so we're not saying it's factual, but yeah, I think Ellie could be done. Lots of concussions. That's a very valid point, Alexa. But we're gonna have to just see how all this pans out. Is there anything else that's really been buzzing with news? I'm trying to see. Um, I don't really have a lot more to share, but yeah, I could see the John Luke thing being real. I could see the John Luke thing not being real, but we'll have to see. But yeah, that's all I have for today. If you have anything else you want to discuss, yeah, Ilya might be taking a break. We did see that. I'm not shocked by that. Um, but anyways, check out our Emily Brady and Ian Somerville interview that went up today. Jacob Sanchez interview will be coming out on Wednesday. We'll be coming back with our women's quad preview next week, and then Clayton should have a um, Clayton and I will have Clayton has an interview scheduled on Wednesday that will come out next week. I'm going to start working on a couple fun new episodes that I'm trying to do like video editing. So we'll see how all that pans out. But Isabeau's injured question mark, Delilah. I have not seen that or heard that. So we'll see. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in today. If you have any other questions or things that you want me to do, leave a comment below. Let us know what you want to see this summer because we have a lot of time to fill and it'd be great to have some skating content to talk about. So All right. Thank you all for watching and have a great rest of your Monday. Bye bye, guys.